The bank lobby was quiet that morning, filled with the soft hum of air conditioning and the occasional tapping of keyboards. Daniel stood near the counter, clutching a worn envelope in his hands. His jacket was old, his shoes scuffed, and dark circles rested beneath his tired eyes. As a single father of two, sleep was a luxury he rarely enjoyed. "I just want to see my balance," Daniel said politely, sliding his bank card toward the teller. The woman behind the counter barely looked at him. Her eyes flicked from his clothes to his hands, then back to her screen. She let out a small laugh, not even trying to hide it. "Sir," she said with a smile that wasn't kind, "this counter is usually for premium account holders." Daniel swallowed. "I know. I won't take long. I just need to check something." The teller sighed and glanced around as if hoping someone more important would appear. Behind her, through a glass-walled office, sat a sharply dressed woman in a tailored suit. She was watching everything. That woman was Claire Whitmore, a millionaire, investor and one of the bank's largest private clients. She was there to finalize a major deal and had been waiting impatiently for her advisor. Claire leaned back in her chair, amused. People like Daniel walked into banks every day, she thought. Dreamers, hopeful, broke. She'd seen enough of them to recognize the type. "Let him check," Claire said loudly from behind the glass. "This should be interesting." The teller smirked and turned back to Daniel. "All right, go ahead." Daniel stepped up to the ATM screen beside the counter. His hands shook slightly as he inserted the card and entered the PIN. For a moment, the screen lagged. Claire crossed her arms, already bored. She expected a laughably low number, maybe a few dollars, maybe an overdraft warning. The screen refreshed. Daniel's breath caught. Behind him, the teller's smile faded. Claire leaned forward. The number on the screen didn't make sense. Zeros filled the display, more than anyone expected. The balance climbed past thousands, past hundreds of thousands, and stopped at a figure that made the teller's face go pale. The room went silent. Daniel exhaled slowly, whispering, "It's still there." Claire stood up. This was no poor single dad. And whatever story he carried, she was about to find out. The silence in the bank felt heavier than the walls themselves. The teller stared at the screen as if it might change if she blinked hard enough. Claire Whitmore stepped out of her glass office, heels clicking sharply against the marble floor. "Is that correct?" Claire asked, her confident tone wavering for the first time. Daniel slowly removed his card. "Yes," he said quietly. "That's my balance." The teller cleared her throat, suddenly standing straighter. "Sir, would you like to speak with a private banker?" A moment ago, they had barely wanted him near the counter. Now they couldn't stop looking at him. Daniel shook his head. "No, I just needed to confirm it arrived." "Arrived?" Claire repeated, narrowing her eyes. "You mean this money was just transferred?" Daniel hesitated. He hadn't planned to explain anything. He never liked talking about it, but the curiosity in the room pressed down on him. "My wife passed away 3 years ago," he said at last. "She was a software engineer, brilliant. Before she died, she asked me to promise something." Claire listened, arms folded, no longer amused. "She told me to keep living simply, to raise our kids with humility, and to never tell anyone about what she was building." The teller leaned closer. "She designed a security algorithm," Daniel continued. "Something governments wanted. She sold the rights quietly through a trust. The payout was delayed. Until today." Claire's breath caught. She understood now. This wasn't luck. This was legacy. "And you stayed quiet?" Claire asked. "You could have lived like a king." Daniel smiled sadly. "My kids don't need a king. They need a father who shows up." Claire felt something shift inside her. She thought of her own childhood, private schools, absent parents, everything except warmth. "Why come here in person?" she asked. Daniel looked at the screen one last time. "Because I wanted to be sure it was real before changing their lives." The teller swallowed hard. "Mr. Daniel, I'm sorry for earlier." Daniel nodded. "It's all right." But Claire wasn't finished. "Would you consider having coffee with me?" she asked. "I think we should talk. About business and about people judging too quickly." Daniel met her eyes. For the first time, he saw sincerity instead of superiority. "All right," he said. "But I need to pick up my kids first." Claire smiled. For the first time in years, she felt like the richest person in the room wasn't the one with the most money, but the one who knew exactly who he was. Claire waited outside the school gates, something she had never done for anyone in her life. Her driver stood nearby, confused but silent. When Daniel arrived holding his children's hands, Claire immediately noticed how relaxed they were around him, laughing, talking, completely unafraid of the world. "These are my kids," Daniel said proudly. "Emma and Lucas." Claire crouched to their level, smiling warmly. "Nice to meet you both." They smiled back without hesitation. No fear, no pretense, just trust. Over coffee later that afternoon, Daniel spoke freely for the first time. He explained how he had turned down high-paying jobs because they demanded long hours and constant travel. He chose flexibility instead, tutoring at night, freelance consulting, living modestly. "I never wanted my kids to grow up chasing numbers," he said. "I wanted them to chase meaning." Claire stared into her cup, shaken. She had chased numbers her entire life. A week later, Claire called an emergency board meeting. Executives expected another aggressive expansion plan. Instead, she shocked them. "We're launching a new foundation," she announced. "One that invests in single parents, ethical tech, and education, quietly." The board protested. Claire silenced them with one sentence. "I met a man with more integrity than this entire room combined." She offered Daniel a position, not as an employee, but as a partner. He would help guide ethical investments and education initiatives. No suits, no rigid schedules. Daniel hesitated. "I'll accept," he said finally, "if it never takes me away from my kids." Claire smiled. "That's the point." Months later, the bank teller watched a news segment about the foundation on the lobby television. She recognized Daniel instantly, standing beside Claire, not in a suit, but in the same simple jacket. Her face burned with shame. The final scene showed Daniel at home, helping Emma with homework while Lucas slept on his shoulder. The phone buzzed with numbers that could change everything. He silenced it. Some people measured wealth in digits on a screen. Daniel measured it in bedtime stories, promises kept, and the quiet peace of knowing he had never lost himself, even when the world had laughed. And that was something no millionaire could ever buy.